Your hands are cold right now and you have been telling yourself it is just the way you are. Maybe you have been saying it for years. Maybe it has become such a normal part of your experience that you no longer even register it as something worth mentioning. You are the person in the room who is always cold, the one who keeps a blanket nearby regardless of the season, the one whose hands make other people flinch when there is an accidental touch because the temperature difference is so noticeable. You have probably been told it is just poor circulation, just the way some people are built, just a minor quirk of your particular biology that means nothing beyond mild personal discomfort. But what if that explanation, the one that felt so reasonable and so dismissive at the same time, was only partially true? What if your cold hands were not just a temperature preference or a circulation quirk, but a visible, measurable, physiologically significant signal that your body is aging at a cellular level faster than it should be? What you are about to hear is going to make you look at your own hands very differently. The connection between chronically cold hands and accelerated biological aging is one that most people have never encountered in any meaningful form, not because the science is new or uncertain, but because the conversation about cold extremities has been so thoroughly confined to the narrow category of circulation complaints that its deeper metabolic and biological implications have almost never been brought into the spaces where ordinary people are actually listening. Cold hands are not just about blood flow in the peripheral sense that most people understand. They are about the efficiency of the entire vascular system, the health of the endothelium, the responsiveness of the autonomic nervous system, the metabolic rate of the cells in your extremities, and the overall biological age of the systems that are supposed to be delivering oxygen and warmth and nutrients to every part of your body, including the parts furthest from your heart. When those systems are aging faster than they should be, the hands and feet are among the first places that story becomes visible. And once you understand why, you cannot unread what your hands have been trying to tell you. Before we go through the specific biological mechanisms connecting cold hands to accelerated aging, I need you to hold on to something that we will return to before the end of this video, because it is the piece that changes the practical significance of everything else. There is a specific mechanism connected to cold hands that researchers studying longevity have identified as one of the most reliable indicators of biological age, meaning the age your body is actually functioning at internally as distinct from the number of years you have been alive. The gap between biological age and chronological age is one of the most important concepts in modern longevity science, and cold hands are connected to that gap in ways that are both more direct and more actionable than most people have ever been told. We will get there. But the foundation needs to come first. Let us start with what is actually happening in the vascular system of a person with chronically cold hands, because the mechanism goes significantly deeper than simply not enough blood reaching the fingers. Your circulatory system is not a fixed pipe network that delivers a constant flow of blood regardless of conditions. It is a dynamic, responsive, actively regulated system in which the blood vessels themselves are constantly expanding and contracting in response to signals from the nervous system, the endothelium, local tissue oxygen levels, and dozens of hormonal and chemical messengers circulating in the blood. The primary mechanism by which your body regulates blood flow to the extremities is called vasomotor control, and it depends entirely on the ability of the smooth muscle surrounding your blood vessels to receive signals and respond to them by either relaxing to allow more blood through or contracting to reduce flow. When this system is working optimally, your hands stay warm because your vessels are responsive, opening up when heat delivery is needed and maintaining efficient flow even in cool conditions. When this system is aging or deteriorating, the vessels become less responsive. They stay in a partially constricted state for longer. They react more slowly and less completely to the signals telling them to open. And the result, the visible, tangible, daily experienced result, is hands that are persistently cold because the vascular system responsible for warming them is no longer performing with the efficiency and responsiveness it had when it was younger and healthier. The endothelium is the centerpiece of this story, and it deserves more attention than it almost ever receives in conversations about cold hands and circulation. The endothelium is the single cell-thick lining that covers the interior surface of every blood vessel in your body, from the largest arteries to the finest capillaries in your fingertips. It is not passive. It is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the human body, producing nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for signaling vascular smooth muscle to relax and allow blood flow, managing inflammation within the vessel wall, regulating the tendency of blood to clot, and responding to sheer stress from flowing blood with a sensitivity that makes it one of the body's most precise biological instruments. When the endothelium is healthy and young in a biological sense, it responds rapidly and robustly to signals, producing nitric oxide efficiently and keeping vessels open, warm, and responsive. When the endothelium is aging, whether due to chronological time, oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, high blood sugar, smoking, or poor diet, its ability to produce nitric oxide declines, vessels become less responsive, peripheral blood flow drops, and the hands, sitting at the end of the longest circulatory pathway in the body, are the first place that endothelial aging becomes a felt daily experience. Cold hands are frequently a symptom of endothelial dysfunction. And endothelial dysfunction is one of the most well-established biological markers of vascular aging and cardiovascular risk. The second mechanism connecting cold hands to accelerated aging involves the mitochondria, the energy-producing structures inside every cell in your body, and their ability to generate heat as a byproduct of their metabolic activity. Your cells produce heat. They are biological furnaces, and the warmth of your body, including the warmth of your extremities, depends significantly on the metabolic rate and efficiency of the mitochondria in your tissues. When mitochondria are healthy and abundant and functioning with the efficiency they are designed for, cells produce energy and heat at rates that support normal body temperature regulation throughout the body, including in the hands and feet. When mitochondria accumulate damage, become dysfunctional, or decline in number, which is one of the most fundamental and well-documented processes of biological aging, cellular heat production drops. The tissues of the extremities, which are already at the end of the circulatory line and therefore already receiving less blood flow than central tissues, become even more vulnerable to coldness when their own internal heat generation capacity is declining. Persistently cold hands in a person who is otherwise not in a cold environment may reflect mitochondrial aging in the peripheral tissues, a process that is systemic, meaning it is happening in the mitochondria throughout the body, not just in the hands, even though the hands are where you feel it most directly. The third mechanism involves the autonomic nervous system and the way chronic stress and chronic low-grade inflammation accelerate the aging of the neural control systems that regulate circulation. Your autonomic nervous system continuously manages the caliber of your blood vessels through a network of nerve fibers that wrap around the blood vessel walls and deliver the moment-to-moment signals that determine how much blood reaches your extremities. This system is extraordinarily sensitive to the chronic stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline, that are elevated in people living under sustained psychological, metabolic, or physiological stress. Chronically elevated stress hormones keep the peripheral blood vessels in a state of sustained constriction, diverting blood toward the core organs and away from the extremities in a threat response pattern that was designed for acute short-term danger situations, and that becomes deeply problematic when it is maintained continuously for months or years. People living under chronic stress frequently have cold hands, not because of vascular disease in the structural sense, but because their autonomic nervous system is perpetually signaling their peripheral vessels to stay constricted. And chronic stress, through its effects on telomere length, inflammatory signaling, hormonal balance, and cellular repair processes, is one of the most well-documented accelerators of biological aging that researchers have identified. Cold hands driven by chronic autonomic stress are therefore both a symptom of and a contributor to accelerated aging, part of a self-reinforcing biological cycle that worsens over time if its drivers are not addressed. The fourth connection involves thyroid function, specifically hypothyroidism, because the thyroid gland is the master regulator of metabolic rate throughout the body, and its declining function is one of the most common and most commonly undiagnosed contributors to the combination of cold extremities and accelerated biological aging that affects a significant portion of the adult population. Thyroid hormones regulate the rate at which every cell in your body burns fuel and produces energy and heat. When thyroid output is insufficient, the metabolic rate of peripheral tissues drops, heat production declines, and cold hands become one of the most consistent and persistent daily symptoms. What is less appreciated is that thyroid function also directly influences cardiovascular health, cholesterol metabolism, neurological function, cognitive clarity, skin health, and energy metabolism at the cellular level, meaning that unaddressed hypothyroidism is not just causing cold hands. It is accelerating biological aging across multiple organ systems simultaneously through the mechanism of globally reduced metabolic efficiency. And now the piece I told you to hold on to, the connection between cold hands and biological age, specifically through the lens of microvascular health and capillary density. Research in longevity science has established that the density and responsiveness of the small blood vessels, the capillaries, in peripheral tissue is one of the most reliable measures of biological as opposed to chronological age. People who are biologically younger than their chronological age tend to have denser, more responsive capillary networks in their peripheral tissue. People who are biologically older than their years show capillary rarefaction, a reduction in capillary density, and reduced vasodilatory response in their extremities that is measurable, documentable, and directly connected to the persistent cold in their hands. Your capillary density in peripheral tissue reflects how efficiently your body has maintained the vascular infrastructure responsible for delivering oxygen, nutrients, and warmth to every part of you. Cold hands that have been present for years may be reflecting a capillary network that has aged beyond what your birth year would suggest. And capillary health, unlike many aspects of aging biology, responds to specific targeted interventions, including exercise, dietary compounds that support nitric oxide production, and lifestyle factors that reduce chronic vascular inflammation. The biological age your hands are displaying is not necessarily the biological age you have to keep. So here's the question I want you to answer honestly in the comments below, because your answer is more important than you might initially think. How long have you had cold hands, and what have you been told about why it happens? Tell me below, because somewhere in this community is someone whose answer to that question is going to make them finally take seriously something their body has been trying to communicate for years.